Welcome to KAA312 Innovation in Regional Development. My name is Matthew Campbell-Ellis and I'll be lecturing throughout this unit this semester. The first slide just covers the unit outline. Please make sure you've read right through the unit outline so that you understand the expectations of this course, what the intended learning outcomes are, what resources you might require, details of teaching arrangements, the assessment tasks, and your academic referencing, academic misconduct and plagiarism information, which I do ask you to pause this slideshow, have a look at that, and make sure you're familiar with all of the contents of the unit outline. Slide 3, some definitions. If you can take a minute to write down your own definitions for innovation and regional development, it's a handy way to start off this lecture. And pressing pause whilst you do that is the way to go. The next slide provides the Wikipedia definitions for innovation and regional development, and they are that innovation is the creation of better or more effective products, services, technologies or ideas that are accepted by markets, governments and society. Whereas regional development is, according to Wikipedia, the provision of aid and other assistance to regions which are less economically developed. From a regional development perspective, we are more interested in the processes that are involved in innovative thinking and prior to the research and development stage of product development. And the Wikipedia definition for regional development does lack somewhat for our purposes. The emphasis on less economically developed is something that I would strongly disagree with, and we may perhaps look at regional development as being the provision of aid or self-help, other assistance, etc. To a region or from within the region for its development purposes. Before we start, however, I would like to really try to contextualize this notion of innovation in a regional development context. So in slide 5 we have an example there, innovation in Lahti, Finland, and we'll just briefly touch on Vesa Harmakorpi's RDPM and the Age Business Core process. Essentially what we have here is that we have a model for innovation to take place in the regional development platform method, which we'll be looking at in detail later in the course. And Vesa developed this process as a PhD project, and he looked at the industries that existed in Lahti and what areas of expertise they had. Drilling down into the data that was collected, they found that a significant opportunity rested with the identified megatrend of an ageing population. And what Vesa and others found was that the areas of expertise largely centred around design and well-being, combined with the processing industries that exist in Lahti. And by combining the ageing population megatrend, the design of ergonomic furniture for aged populations became a new business activity in the Lahti region, providing new wealth and income for many people, and that region has become one of the world leaders in the design of furniture and other bits and pieces for aged people. Our second example is Andrew Arbuthnot's work in Norrbotten in Sweden, and the background to Andrew's work is that in this region of Sweden, which has a very low population base, the forest sector was the mainstay of the region, and the forest industry was shut down due to policy changes at the national level, and the local people there didn't know what to do, how they would survive into the future. With only a small population as a starting point, there weren't, and no other industry base basically, there was little that they could see presenting itself for future employment opportunities. And Andrew, working with others, worked with the local people very directly, and upon going through the process that they went through, it was revealed by the local people that the two things they really knew well were forests and ice. And somebody, as a part of that process, came up with the idea of making ice tracks on the many thousands of lakes that exist up there, but finding suitable lakes, making ice tracks on them for vehicles to be tested in ice and snow conditions. And what has happened now is that most car manufacturers in the world take their new cars to Norbotten and trial them on the ice to see how they perform. And that has been a huge success story for what was considered a bit of a backwater area. So that's sort of to give you an idea that innovation is very much about the thinking around what can happen. And it's about bringing the people together that may be able to contribute to that thinking and the realisation of new ideas, which are then passed on to research and development bodies or in-house, whatever it may be, to develop those processes, those ideas into new products. Moving on to slide 7, Regional Development, a Critique. Just to note that this lecture and some of the others that we'll be going through this semester are based on the work of Dr. Tony McCall, who originally developed and presented this unit, and his work is still very current and what we are basing most of our learning on. What we will be doing is looking at the relationship between innovation and regional development and the role that government, community and markets play in that relationship, and we'll be looking at this through a regional science lens. So we'll be looking essentially at how innovation is linked to how those three sectors, government, community and markets, work together at regional and local levels to provide development opportunities. Slide 8. We take our starting point as Storper's challenge, asking why do regions develop and change and how will they emerge as place-based and competitive in increasingly global markets. You may recall that Michael Storper, the holy trinity that he came up with of organisations, technologies and territories, are essential ingredients into developing new products and innovation systems. The regional governance challenge for regional scientists such as ourselves is essentially twofold. What will regionalisation or localisation look like? How will these factors be conceived, developed and be sustained, and what enterprise forms will they take? Essentially, we're asking the question, what kinds of approaches will a region take to innovation and regional development in this new globalised world that pretty much everybody finds themselves in? How will a particular region, industry within a region differentiate itself from its competitors? How will it construct those competitive-based advantages? Slide 9, titled The Emergence of NR and RIS. Regional development policy and practice in Australia is currently coming under this term new regionalism as a theoretical discourse. And an essential part of that new regionalism is regional innovation systems, which provide some of the answers to the complex issues surrounding regional development policy and practice. And as you can see here, new regionalism refers to the theoretical discourse surrounding integrated and associational regional governance and social capital. The associational part there is the key word I want you to focus on. It's about how people come together, how they organise to respond to these global challenges that manifest at the regional scale. It's about community self-organisation. And the new regionalism is the theoretical discourse surrounding these processes that are underway in Australia. And the key focus for us as people interested in innovation is how collaboration contributes to those innovation processes, and sort of how does trust shape up and play a role and become a key economic driver. So moving on to slide 10, we see Dr. Tony McCall there. And Tony asked the question, where has regional science come from, and how has that journey shaped our current opportunities and challenges as regional scientists within this new regionalism discourse? In particular, how do we define a region in a complex globalised world? There's different scales we need to consider here. We need to consider also, the spatial dimensions of a region always as regional scientists. But what we also need to consider here is what impact has the internet had on how we're defining a region. Those social communities that have come up through social media, how does region affect them? How does dealing with other regions in a business sense, what shapes does that take? What forms does that take nowadays in this more complicated, more complex, rapid and dynamic, internet-based world? And what does development mean? Who are the development agents in local and global economies? And on slide 11 we can find that Tony's answers to these questions are that regions are amalgams of social, political and geographical spaces. Whereas development, Tony says, we can measure this by GDP per capita. But he asks the question, what about sustainability or livability? What about all those people who are downshifting, who are, looking for tree change, green change, sea change type outcomes in their life, and, are more interested in the place they want to live in rather than a career sort of focus. And who are the agents of regional development? Regional science and regional development authorities put the firm front and centre in the sense of who is the agent. The small to medium enterprise, basically. But increasingly, non-government organisations and governments are playing more and more of a role in regional development. Governments are becoming partners, non-government organisations are being set up to stimulate economies, etc. And it's becoming more and more complicated. But at the same time, it's probably becoming more regionalised and to some degree more efficient.